Hey, 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 welcome to this week's episode of Becoming More Me. I'm your host, Theresa Lear Levine, and this week I am talking to the host of Dream Your Life Now podcast, Julia Martin. I had the pleasure of being on Julia's podcast a couple of years back, and we've stayed in touch. And as I like to say, I make some of my best and favorite friends through podcasting, and I consider Julia a friend. She is a seasoned manifestation and business coach, and she is on a mission to ignite the fire and passion in people's lives and careers. After a successful 12-year tenure in business development at Google and Twitter, Julia felt compelled to share her profound understanding of manifestation with the world. By blending her expertise in mindset with proven business strategies, she guides her clients towards transformative life changes and career breakthroughs. Her focus now is on helping soulful, ambitious women build their own flourishing coaching businesses from scratch. Now, driven by this commitment to empower the next generation, she's also recently co-founded Career Foundations, a suite of programs designed to impact professional skills, mindset mastery, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy to high school students. I love this so much. In just 2 years, Career Foundations has blossomed into a 7-figure enterprise, propelling Julia to travel the globe, speaking, training educators, and implementing these programs in classrooms worldwide. Julia embodies the principles she teaches. As a devoted mother of 3 young children, she applies her knowledge of the law of attraction to curate a life brimming with balance, love, and happiness, and she totally exudes it. She fervently believes that with the right tools, practices, and mindset, achieving a life of joy, fulfillment, and abundance is within everyone's reach. And today we're going to hear a lot of really awesome stories from Julia that take us back in time and that weave us through her whole path of manifestation, alignment, misalignment, and a lot of other wonderful little deep dives. So stay tuned. It all starts now. Welcome, Julia. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here, Theresa.
I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And I always love to start with a little bit of non-typical background information, like, who you love spending your time with, what your hobbies are outside of work, and that kind of stuff. Tell us a little bit about where you live and all that jazz.
Yeah. I'll start with who do I love spending my time with? And that's my husband and my kids. I actually talked about this on my podcast recently because I'm a big manifester, and last year I'm like, you know what? I want to manifest more friendships. And I put on my vision board like girls trips, like spa trips, going to, Mexico. And then I manifested a group of friends and they're great, but I realized what I really love is like movie nights cuddled up at home with my kids and my husband. And every time I get invited to a trip, I'm like, no, I just want to be with my family. So I mean, that's just a little tidbit because we can manifest things, but they may not be aligned with what we truly want. And
Sure.
the stage that I'm in my life right now, um, is I really enjoy spending time with my family. I'm really busy more than ever with work. Finally found my thing in my career that truly lights me up. I I love what I do, and I love the idea that the possibilities are infinite. I don't know where it's all going, but I'm excited to wake up every day. Um, I also, a big part, and maybe we'll talk about this too, is um, I really make it a priority to take intentional steps back, looking at the whole of my life and making sure that I'm not putting too much energy into work or too much energy into just my relationships, but thinking about my personal development and my health and my spirituality and fun and all those things. So I do the little wheel of life. And this is all kind of a long answer to your question, but
Fine.
yeah, I've been very intentional in kind of focusing on all those different things. And if I'm like, oh, I feel a little off, I'm like, oh, you know why? It's because I haven't actually spent time like reconnecting with my personal development or growth. So then I'm like, you know what? I need to read Teresa's book, or I need to, do something for myself. So that's a little bit about me. I have a very full life right now. Um love what I do, love my family, love my friends, but I also really enjoy spending time by myself, going to the beach, connecting with nature, yoga. I love drinking wine, love new restaurants.
Me
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. And I loved how you said you're a big manifester. I think a lot of people say I'm big into manifesting or things like that. But I think when you really own the power that is inside of you, like I am the manifester, I think that was really a powerful thing that you said there. Can you expand upon like the moment when you discovered manifestation and like the concept
Yeah.
of it?
Yeah, it was a very pivotal moment in my life, and I've talked about this moment quite a bit because obviously you never know that it's a pivotal moment when it happens, but I look back and that's the moment where my entire life changed. And it was I was like 23, 24 years old. I was living in Los Angeles. Um I'd graduated from college and I got laid off 3 times over the course of a year and a half. I didn't know who I was anymore. I had done really well in high school and in college. I did all the things you're supposed to do. And then all of a sudden I'm like, why is life like this? Why is it so hard? Why can't I land a job? Why can't I keep a job? Why am I feeling like my confidence was shot? I didn't know who I was. I didn't know. I thought, I kind of had a vision of like, oh, I want a career. I want to be successful. I want to find love, but I can't. And I just felt very much in this victim mentality and also just surrounded with negativity. And I remember this moment, someone had someone had gifted me a book called Infinite Possibilities by Mike Dooley. And they're like, this book is going to change your life. And I'm like, oh, spirituality. I'm not into all that stuff.
It's a good
But I
one.
remember, what?
It's a good one.
It's a good one. Well, I laid down, I was living in LA, like I said, in my little apartment and just, feeling bad for myself probably. And I read this book and it was this whole idea of manifestation, which is your thoughts are creating your reality. Your thoughts become things. Your focus and your energy is everything. And it was like, it just clicked because I realized, oh, I am a manifester, to what we were saying earlier. I've always been a manifester. Things used to come easily to me because I believed that they would, and I believed it was easy, and I believed in myself, and I knew where I was going too. I realized that I had been a manifester, and I had lost it. I had completely lost my power. And so I decided, Theresa, I'm like, I'm gonna read. I finished the book. I finished it, I think, in almost one sitting, because I was like, this feels like truth. And I'm like, okay, what do I want? And that's when I wrote down and I'm like, I'm gonna manifest it. I did all the steps that Mike Dooley talked about, and I said, I'm gonna manifest um a job at Google, because all the people who have careers at Google, their life is made. They're riding around in the bikes, they're on whiteboards, they're eating free food, they're all happy. That's the answer to my problems. And I wrote it down. I was so focused. I visualized it. I like pulled up every picture of Google and I reached out to everyone that I knew, but it was from this place of like, it's gonna happen. It's just gonna happen. I removed myself from a lot of the negativity around me. I spent a lot of time like reflecting and reframing my limiting beliefs, affirming things. And I got the job at Google. I shouldn't have gotten a job, that's for sure. I didn't have any experience. I had these 3 layoffs, but um, that's when I realized, when I got that job, I was like, oh my gosh, this is real. This is real. And then, the rest is kind of history, but that was the moment when I truly understood and realized the power of intentional manifestation.
That's awesome. And you spent quite a long time at that job, no?
Yeah. Well, Google 4 years, and then I was at Twitter afterwards for another 6.5, 7 years. Oh no, sorry, 8.5 years. Yeah. So a long
Like
time in,
12-ish years in
yeah,
corporate
yeah,
doing that kind
yeah.
of stuff. And then
Yeah.
from there, you kind of pivoted into everything that you've been snowballing over the last bit. So, how did that transition out of corporate go for you? That's something I work with a lot on with my clients. I have a lot of clients that come to me where they're transitioning between like a corporate job and kind of going into business for themselves. There's a lot to unpack there.
There is, and I think this is where a lot of people get stuck because we're a lot of us are raised in a society that tells us the corporate job is the secure, safe thing to do. This is what you do in life. You get a corporate job and you go up the corporate ladder. That's success. And then, you retire and, that's life. And that's definitely what I was taught too. And no offense to my parents at all. It's like,
Sure.
that's what they knew too. And so I had this tug for so long that it was someone asked me, do you think the world is seeing the best of you right now? It was like a very like off the cuff kind of like nothing comment. And it just sat with me. Is the world seeing the best of me? And I was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Have I manifested everything? Yeah. I'm in the career that I thought I wanted, at least like society told me was success. Like I'm, getting the promotions. I have three beautiful, healthy children, a husband who I actually really love. I've manifested this community, the house, all of these things. And I was just like, but I'm so unfulfilled. Why? Like the vision board has come to life, and it was um this realization that like you can still manifest things that are misaligned. And I just had to really take a step back and think about who am I? Like what is my soul desire? And it certainly wasn't business development, Twitter and Google, which by the way, it served me and I learned so much and I would not take it away. But I got to a point where it was no longer me and I couldn't deny or like this fact that there was something tugging me anymore. It was like, I feel like we had talked about this too, but it was like physical. I felt it in my body. I felt sick. Like anytime that I would see someone doing something that they love, it triggered the heck out of me.
Ooh, yeah.
Or like entrepreneurs, or I'm like, I couldn't even like listen to the stories because I'm like, I can't do
Because
that.
you were resisting your own expansion, so the pain was just getting like magnified.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what happened was, um, I, I, it was, I had my third son, Wit. He was a few weeks old. And I actually got a call from Twitter while I was on maternity leave. And I haven't really shared this story a lot, but um, they were like, we're doing a big reorg and your role has been made redundant. And I'm like, wait, but I'm on maternity leave. I've been here for 8 years. And they're like, yes, sorry, And then it was, so two things happened. I was like, oh my God, I have a 6-week-old and I just got laid off. I can't believe this. What am I going to do? But then it was also this moment of I've been so loyal for so long, and this is a company. This is like I can't blame them, but it's not like I need to reevaluate like what's in it for me long term, because I think a part of it was like I felt like I should stay there because of what they have given me, and you get very connected to the people you work with and to the mission of the company. And then it was just like, no, Julia, like you are disposable at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how much you love your team or, you feel good there. It's like you are disposable. And so I had again, my 3-week-old son, I'm like, I'm going to manifest my job back so that I don't have this anxiety, like about, money and stability, but then I'm going to figure out what I actually want to do and I'm going to do it. And so I did. I manifested the job back. They gave me my full maternity leave and I was going to start another team. So that was figured out. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? And I had a conversation with my husband, Alex, and I was like, I want to start a podcast and I don't know why, but I just feel it. I just feel it. I want to share talk, interview people. And I kind of thought, Theresa, I'm like, if I start interviewing people about their purpose, maybe I'll figure out mine.
Sure.
then
Lit up
he,
every time I talk to somebody on my podcast. It's the best gig in town,
yeah.
isn't it?
And I love podcasts and I listen. So I'm like, you know what? This could be a stepping stone into figuring out what I want. And I'll make new connections in the meantime. And he was like, well, why don't you talk about manifestation? Like, look at your side table, Julia. I was like, 25,000 books on spirituality and manifesting. And I was like, I don't know if anyone's going to really listen to that. And he's like, well, but that's what you're passionate about. So he was a big catalyst in it. And so I started the podcast and I started interviewing people who, experts in manifestation, and 90% of them were coaches and experts in their field, but they were running retreats and creating courses and running masterminds. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. They get paid to do this. Like, people would always say that saying, like, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I hated it because I'm like, come on, it's not real. But I'm
Oh,
like,
it's real. It's real.
it's real. All these people. And so anyway, one thing led to another, and I started coaching, and here I am.
That's so cool. I love that you made all of those things happen in some of them more aligned than others. And
Mhm.
I think sometimes at least when I talk about it, I'll get feedback from people that are always kind of like, how do you kind of stay in that alignment? And I think it's important to understand that we don't always stay in that alignment that we need to. I'm kind of wondering how you deal with that. I know I had a crappy morning this morning. Like my day started off like, ugh, like in the toilet. And like even like with my husband like giving me pep talks and stuff, I was like, I just want to wallow. Like
Yeah.
I picked it back up and I'm much better at doing that than I ever have been. But like how do you relate with that?
Well, I think the first thing is just giving yourself permission to do that
Hmm.
and not resisting it, and realizing that one thing that I've come to really realize is that we need those moments in order to appreciate the highs. Like, it's the whole contrast thing.
Yes.
So, and then the other piece is what we resist persists. So, like, pushing away a feeling of like frustration, or like you feel like, oh, I started my day like this. It's not about being like, no, you know what, Julia, put on a happy face, be positive. It's much more for me like recognizing, okay, I'm not the feeling, but
Mhm.
I'm feeling those things. And then this is an Abraham Hicks thing, with who I do. You love Abraham
Oh, I
Hicks?
love Abraham Hicks. I was just listening to Esther channeling Abraham this morning.
Oh, you were? Okay. Well, I mean, that's what helps me so much when I'm in the funks, is like kind of reconnecting with
That
that.
is exactly why I was doing it.
Yeah. Something that really helps, that I think is very a tangible tool, is when you have those moments of feeling frustrated, is one, like, let yourself feel it. And as Theresa would say, like, there's modalities like EFT and breath work to kind of move the energy through. But if it's not working and you're in your own head, again, Abraham Hicks tool that I use a lot is just reaching for a softer feeling thought.
Exactly what I did.
Our thoughts become things, and our thoughts also create momentum.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to spiral, because the negative
Mhm.
thoughts just lead to more negative thoughts. But if you notice yourself spiraling, that's when I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go to jumping for joy right now,
Right.
but I do have control over the next thought that I think. And maybe
Mhm.
it will be something like, I wonder if by the end of today I can feel better.
Yeah.
That
That's
feels,
exactly it for me too. I
yeah.
find that when I get in a place that feels misaligned with where I really want to be, I well, first of all, I get hard on myself because, hey, I'm an expert at this kind of stuff. And you're like, I shouldn't be having these kind of issues. And I'm not aligning with what I want to attract. So I'm attracting what I don't want and blah, 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 blah. And then I find myself resisting everything I need to do to go in the other direction. Like, I know I could buzz out around of EFT tapping or go do some self hypnosis or even just go take a walk. And
Yeah.
instead, I'm like, no. So it's like acknowledging that thing so that it can move move, and then I start to want to do the other things. And I was like, I was having like a dance party in my kitchen by 6 a.m. But you know, the really early wee hours of the morning when I was getting ready for the day were not pretty.
Totally. And I'm so glad you're being open and honest about it because I am too, because a lot of I talk about gratitude a lot, which I think is so important. I actually think gratitude, even though it almost feels trite when people talk about it,
It's so
I think
important.
it's the most incredibly powerful tool that is available to human beings, truly.
So true.
And I'm not just saying that in a way of like gratitude, like appreciate your life because, you know, when you're in that energy of gratitude, the world is available to you and things become easier. And so, but again, it's really hard to be like, I'm thankful for this and this and this when you feel like crap. But you can get there through softer feeling thoughts. But what I was saying about what I appreciate about you being open, honest is like we're all humans, and that is a very natural to
Yes.
have human emotions. And I have that too. And I get into funks. And it's kind of like the curse of knowing that about manifestation is you're like, oh, I know this is just attracting more. And oh, I'm not supposed to be like this. And I'm the one teaching this. But, you know, I also like, I really try to give myself grace and know that even if I feel bad now, I always end up feeling better later. Like
Yeah,
there's a new day, changes by the hour, and
for sure.
reminding myself that too. It's like, okay, I know I don't feel good right now, but there's a very high possibility that I'm gonna feel great by the afternoon.
Heck yeah, for sure. And I know this also kind of goes hand in hand with the idea around like skepticism when it comes to manifesting and things. And I know somewhere you mentioned kind of being spiritually skeptical and yet kind of like fully believing in intentionally manifesting. So, how do you like reconcile the skepticism with the success in manifestation?
You know, it's so interesting, Teresa. I had this moment. It was like we had this in I ran a retreat and I had this woman Marlies lead us through this holotropic breath work session. Have you done that? Like like an
Yes, I
hour?
have.
Okay, so
It's
I've
amazing.
had the experience where you just feel euphoric at the end, but I had this like weird download that happened in that. And let me just preface this by saying I am very reticent still to call myself spiritual, which is crazy. Like I was very hesitant to even call my podcast, which is clearly a spiritual podcast because I have, you know, mediums and psychics and shamans and, you know, and we talk about spirituality and we talk about spirit guides and all, but I'm like, but I'm not that spiritual, but I am. And I think it's just, I just find I'm very pragmatic and you know, I like reason and order to things. I don't know if that's like how I was born or as a person. Anyway, so I like to poke holes in things and I want clear evidence that it works. With manifestation, I have clear evidence that it works. I don't know how or why. We all have guesses like, you know, the universe and stuff like that, but all I know is that I have had far too many wild, crazy, I am living in something I visualize moments, or the number is exactly the, you know, and it's like, this is real. So my brain is okay with that. When it comes to things like spirit guides and, you know, our souls traveling and um, things that I haven't been able to witness or see or feel, or I, I have very heavy skepticism. It doesn't mean I'm not curious about it. And I will talk about spirit guides all day. I'm just not going to be the person who's like, they're real and you have, you know, like I have to be skeptical. But anyway, going back to this breathwork session, um, I've been really frustrated because I'm like, I want to connect with my spirit guides if they're real, because I want to see it. I want to hear them. I want to be like Esther, or I want to be like, you know, even a lot of my clients, they'll go into meditation and they'll see things and they'll get messages, and it's never clear for me still. But in this breathwork session, I had just this message come to me, which was like, you are always going to be skeptical, and that is your superpower. And I will never be able to see my spirit guides. I have a feeling I will never. And I think that the reason why is because for my podcast and for my clients, the I feel
Kind
like
of like your
people,
advocate role.
it's kind of what I have to do. It's like the people who are on the edge of like, okay, I think if I was like Esther Hicks, I wouldn't be relatable to a lot of people, and I wouldn't be able to teach in a way that, like lands or resonates. So yes, I'm okay. This was such a long-winded way of saying it, but it's like I'm always going to have a healthy amount of skepticism. And when it comes to things in the spiritual world that I haven't experienced or seen for myself, I'm going to poke holes and I'm going to ask questions, and I'm going to keep doing that until the day that I die.
Own it.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh my gosh. I want to hear about, so you get out of corporate and you kind of start doing your own thing. And now you're doing this like amazing program for high schools. And I want to get into that in a minute. But like what was the path of your your entrepreneurial development after getting out of corporate?
Yeah. So I started the podcast. I had a 6 week old when I, published the first episode. Like everyone was like, "You're crazy. Like, what are you doing? You have like 3 kids and you're on maternity leave and you're starting a podcast." And like, what, why? But there was something, and this is where it's like I have to feel like there's something spiritual, because it was such a strong pull and desire that I felt like I was being led. It wasn't even like a conscious decision, like, oh, I'm going to try this thing. It was like, no, no, I have to do this thing. And now looking back, I'm like, oh, well, of course, like that's how it all started. It was clear breadcrumbs. But anyway, I started the podcast and started interviewing these coaches. And then during the same time, people on Instagram started reaching out to me for like manifestation advice and tips, and um but also like what to do in their career, or they wanted to start a business. So I kind of was becoming a manifestation and business coach, like in the DMs for free. And then it just got to a point where it was like so much of my time was like in, and I'm like, you know what, I should probably start, like, see if people want to do an actual coaching. So I was like, I'm going to take on some pro bono clients. This is before even enrolling in any course or being a legitimate coach. I was like, I'll just, offer my advice and listen. And those pro bono clients were like, they went so well and it felt so aligned, and they were getting these transformations, and then they wanted to work with me and pay me. And I'm like, well, now I need to legitimize this. And so I'm back at Twitter at this point in my full-time job, trying to manage all of it, but also lit up because I'm also doing the podcast and I'm meeting interesting people. And I'm like, I don't have very much time in my day, but I can make time for like 3 or 4 clients, maybe, in these little pockets. And I invested in my first course to become coaching certified, or program, I should say. So I got the certification, and then I felt like legit, and I took on I put a post out there on Instagram, and I didn't even know what would happen with it, but I'm like, I'm looking for 5 people, and within a few days, I had 5 full paying clients. And I was like, oh my God, this is real. Like, this could be my career. But at the same time, I was like, I kind of had this like golden handcuffs thing where it was, I just don't think I'm ever going to make as much money as what I'm making in corporate. Like I've worked 13 years at this point to just get up and up and up. And I'm so pigeonholed in this career. Like, I just don't know how I'm ever going to step outside of it. And then I had someone on my podcast, um, Jocelyn Kelly Reed. I don't know if you know her or have heard of her.
I've heard.
She's like the money coach. Anyway, she's just talks all about money, and she owns it, which is not my thing. But it was like a limiting belief. Like, I can't make coaching my full-time thing. At least, like, I'm an equal contributor to our household. I can't, um, we have bills to pay and our mortgage and our lifestyle. And Jocelyn told me that, like, oh yeah, there's I'm making $100,000 a month. I was like, what? Like, what? That doesn't even make sense. Like, that's not even like, that's more than lawyers and doctors. And what are you talking about? And she's like, oh my God. And she told me all these coaches that were, only running like a private and group coaching and making, and it wasn't even about that number. It was just like, it blew the lid off of what I thought was
Yeah.
possible. And I'm like, even if she's exaggerating, which she wasn't, but like, even if it's $50,000 a month, like that's still a lot more than I'm making right now. And so all of a sudden I was just expanded in thinking, okay, there's no actual cap here.
Mhm.
So I could make this a full-time thing. And that's when, and I'll just kind of like, because I'm sure you're like, well, okay, well, how does that go anywhere? But I'm like,
No, I'm following you
oh, okay, okay.
from corporate through where you are
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
So I was like, I still don't know how I'm going to be able to ramp this up to the level. Like there is not enough time in the day. I do not have the energy. And plus, I mean, you have 4 kids. Like I
Mhm.
want to be a present, active mom. I want to pick up my kids from school at least a couple days a week. I want to have coffee dates and like, and I want to go to every soccer game and like I can't do this. I can't make this work. So I remember I was like, oh my God, Julia, duh, manifest it. And so I'm like, okay, what is the number that I need to make that I want is like a little nest egg that will make me feel like I can leave Twitter and use that to ramp up? What would it take? So I, calculated it and I'm like, hey, this is my number. And I wrote it down and I did things like the 333 method, but I like got that number. I was like, I'd close my eyes and I'd see that number, like sparkles all around it. I did, like some woo stuff here.
Oh yeah.
Um, and then I kid you not, this was October, like, so it'd been 8 months or something of me having a little, or no, like 6 months of having the side coaching business. I'd written down that number. And I got in, there was an announcement and at Twitter, and they're like, everyone needs to meet, every team. And they were announcing that my team was getting acquired. And everyone was so upset, but I was like, wait, what does this mean? What does this mean? And then they said, you have a choice to me. They're like, you can go to this new company and have a bigger title and more money and all this stuff, or you can take the severance. And I was like, well, what is the severance? And the severance was the exact amount of my number. And
Ah, goosebumps.
I was, my jaw dropped to the floor. I could not, I mean, I could, but it's kind of one of those things where you're like,
Yeah.
can't believe this happened. And I would have never, I didn't
Full
even know.
belief and full disbelief all at the same time.
And this is the whole thing of like, you have to let go of the how, because if I had sat there and been like, okay, I need 10 clients and blah, 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 and this is when, and then I'm gonna have to do this, like, I would have been so focused, but instead I was like, no, this is my number, I'm gonna drop it. I would have never even thought that this was a possibility that your team could get acquired and I could get a severance. Like, I did not know that was possible. Um, so anyway, I took the severance. That was actually a really hard decision, even though it
I'll
seemed
bet.
like it's so obvious, because it was like my old self was like, but it's the big title and it's more money than you've ever made and it's stability and it's this new company and it's, you'd be managing all of North America. Like,
It's your identity.
it's my identity. Yeah. But then I was like, "Ugh, of course, of course. I did this like little exercise in my head and I was like, oh my God, it's so obvious.
I think
And
the universe gives us challenges too. Like when we manifest things, I think sometimes it does. It comes with like a really hard decision that kind of makes us like break up with who we are in order to step into the next version of ourselves and cracks us open in these ways that like we can be a little resistant, that it can be a bit painful, but that's exactly how we get there.
totally, and that's the moments of growth too. Is that it can't be easy, because then where's the growth in that? It's,
Right.
you've got to feel it and you've got to mull over that thing. And then it's like, oh, on the other side is like everything.
Yeah. How much time were you spending with your manifestation practices during that time? Like what did that look like for you?
It's so funny. People ask me this question a lot, like, what is your manifesting routine? And I I I wish I could say this is, exactly what I do every day. And it's
Mine changes
really
all the time, so I'm just curious.
mine changes all the time. But it's gotten to a point where it's much more like I'm embodying it. Like like we were talking about before, I'm so aware that my thoughts and focus are energy, and that I'm constantly attracting things. So it's more like I'm very mindful about what I think about and what I envision. I daydream a lot. And I love going on runs, but when I go on runs, I am first like getting into gratitude. So I guess this is a practice. I practice gratitude. I Every morning when I wake up, that is one of the first things I think about is what can I be grateful for today? And I do it with my kids at dinner. We always say something that we're grateful for, which is just so sweet. I
Mhm.
think you do that too, right? Yeah. Um, but yeah, so I'll go on a run and I'll think about what I'm grateful for, and then I'll just like really just envision, where is everything going? What does it look like? What does it feel like? And it's not just for work, but it's, what like vacations that I want to take with my kids, or how I want to feel in my body, or
Mhm.
um things that I want to experience. So that's, I guess, a practice. I'm not good at meditating. I'm just
Oh, me
not.
either.
Okay,
I feel
good.
like we've talked about this before too. I think it's my
Yeah.
ADHD brain. It's just like,
It,
yeah. I'll
it
do
just,
guided meditations. Guided meditations are wonderful, but
yeah,
you gotta feed
yeah.
it to me.
As long as it's not longer than like 10 minutes. I love the idea of it. It's just I feel like I have so many better things to do and more
Oh yeah.
efficient ways there. Um,
I do most of mine while I'm sleeping. Like I'll do
oh yeah.
like the subliminals or like
Oh
hypnosis
yeah.
stuff that's like all night long or whatever.
Oh
I just
yeah.
put on like the sleep headband earphones that are like super comfy that you can like roll around in, and I just put on like binaural beats or hypnosis or
I
different
don't
things
know
for
those
manifesting.
headphones.
Yeah.
You, you might have to send me those later.
I would be happy to send you a link. And if you guys want it, I'll
Okay.
put a link in the show notes too. They're
Yeah,
super
yeah.
affordable, super comfy. They're great for like running. They're great for whatever. But for
Oh,
me, like I used to try to sleep with earbuds in, and then my ears would hurt because I'm a side sleeper
yeah.
sometimes, and they like bruise up your ear canals. And I'm like, this
Yeah.
isn't working. So, but these kind of just sit right over your head, just like it's like a headband, and they just kind of sit right over your ears.
Okay, I
So
need that. I
perfect.
need that. I would love to see the clip. Yeah, and then I journal a lot. I do journal a lot. More like um when I get into a negative headspace, I do like to get it out on paper, because for me, sometimes like it just feels bigger in your head, and like sometimes
Sure.
I write it down, I'm just like, oh, that's it. Oh, I can work with that. I can get through that. And then I also use journaling. I have so many journals. I have like manifestation journals. I have life planners. I have a full focus planner. Um, and I like to write down goals and manifestations. And the difference for me is I think of a goal as something like, binary. You did it or you didn't. Like you check it off. And I like goals. I like setting smart goals. I like them to be specific and measurable. And I think that's important for business. And I guess this is my right brain and my left brain. But then I also like setting manifestations, which is much more about how I want to feel, how I want to show up, like who I want to step into, that kind of thing, where it's not like I can't just check off and be like, you know, feel joyful, like, because it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
So I guess it's like intentions and goals that I do set for myself. All I try to do it daily, but definitely do it weekly and monthly.
Yeah, no, I totally align with that. I love that. And yeah, you like to do like vision boards and things too, don't you?
Vision boards. I love vision boards. Do you like vision boards?
I don't.
You're so artsy though. I
I
love.
will see. Yeah, I mean, and like there's some neurographs I did last week over there. Like I like to like rewire my neurons in my brain through like doodling and art,
Yeah.
but I tend to do better than a vision board with like recording my intentions, my goals, my affirmations, not so much affirmations, and things with audio, or I'll turning them into like a self-hypnosis track. And that's the way I tend to process and manifest better.
Oh, interesting. What are affirmations?
Noah St. John kind of coined that term, but it's basically based in, and I talk about this in my book too, because I love asking the subconscious mind questions that it can work on all day. So instead of an affirmation, where sometimes they can be kind of traumatic, like if we try to say we are something that we're not, a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
times we end up in resistance.
Yeah.
An affirmation is kind of asking the question to your brain, because the brain responds to questions, not statements, the
Yeah.
subconscious mind. And so instead of saying like, people will always say like, I am a millionaire, like as a, an
Oh
affirmation or
yeah.
something. And if they're not, then there's a lot of trauma there. But maybe it's, what would it take for me to be a millionaire? Or that kind of a thing. What would it take questions are great. And
Yeah.
how would I align with that kind of thing? So I like those kind of questions more than I
Yeah.
like the affirmations. I put a lot of those into my audios that I create for myself, and then normally I create something new every quarter that aligns with what I'm working on.
Cool. Yeah. I agree with you. Like there can be psychological damage with affirmations that you don't really believe. The way that I do affirmations is much more like when I read an affirmation, I just want to feel good. That's
Mhm.
it. So it's like it's not, I'm a millionaire or it's more like I trust that the universe
Yeah.
is supporting me. Those kinds of things, like things where I'm like I want to feel like when I read them or when I repeat them to myself. More like mantras but
Right.
definitely not like think like I'm saying things that aren't true.
No, I love that. Actually, I do love vision boards. Like I love looking at other people's. I get too hung up on exactly what's going to be on there. And to me, there's more possibility in my head with the words than with the exact picture. I kind of wonder if with the development of like AI and like generating images and stuff, if I might actually be able to generate something that's more on target of what I want instead of like looking at
Yeah,
magazines or, going on Google or whatever and trying to find images.
great idea. That's a great idea. Well, the reason why I do vision boards a lot. So I don't, I also, if someone was like, you can only do one vision board in 5 years, I would be like, I'm not doing it because
Right.
I'm more like, I just think it's a fun activity and I do it with my husband sometimes. Well, we do it once a year, but
Yeah, I think I saw you in your stories doing it around New Year's.
yeah,
Yeah.
around New Year's. But I also like to I like to look through magazines and like see what just captures me. Oh, that looks like a fun vacation, or she looks like a boss. Like I kind of and I just I'm always like grabbing things, and so then I put them on a board and I might throw it away, but I just like to constantly have inspiration
Yeah.
around me.
I've done better with like a manifesting box instead of a vision board, where
Oh
like when I
yeah.
find a picture that I like, I would either like print it off and put it in the box, or if it was in a magazine, tear it out and put it in the
Oh
box,
yeah.
and then I can kind of
Yeah.
thumb through the box, but without having to like ultra organize it or like get
Yeah.
all Canva specific
Yeah.
or whatever on
Yeah.
creating it just perfect. But that is awesome. So how and when did you begin this program that now is being used in Hawaii and all the high schools and everything?
Oh my God. This is like it's interesting because I spend like 75% of my time on this career foundations program, but I don't really talk about it on because I think it's a little confusing because it's like, oh wait, is she a manifestation business coach or is she like an educator and like a trainer and a
It
curriculum
can be
writer?
all of it. I remember when you
I
were
know.
creating it, and we got
No,
to take a peek at
totally.
it, and I loved what you were working on.
Yeah, no, I mean more like for Instagram and stuff. I want it to be focused
Sure.
and not confusing, but I'm in love with what I'm doing. So I've always, and I think we talked about this when I had you on my podcast, but um even I mean years ago when I discovered manifestation, I remember thinking, why don't they teach this in high school? Like this would have been so valuable just to know how you're and even just the science part. Like we don't have to
Sure.
talk about spirituality or woo, but like how your thoughts are energy and talking about things like law of attraction and some of the incredible studies that they've done, things that Einstein, was but if I had known this, I know I would have been fascinated and I'm like,
Yeah.
and one day I'm like, I want to create something where I'm teaching this to high school students before they get to a point of where I was, and it was just kind of this little like idea that was always kind of floating around in my head. And then I while I was still at Twitter but I, started this manifestation coaching business on the side, I was flipping through Instagram and one of my old Twitter coworkers, Melanie, had posted something and I didn't even know Melanie very well. Like we followed each other, we kind of worked together, but not well at all. I hadn't talked to her in years. And she had a course for high school students all around how to network in high school, and basically that your network is your net worth. And she was like, you're not taught this in high school. Basically, when you're ready to find a job, most people think that you submit your resume, and that's not actually how hiring works. Like,
This is so true.
most of these big companies, they're looking for referrals. By the time it's on LinkedIn or wherever, like it's too late. Someone else is already at the top. And plus, it becomes so much easier for a hiring manager to hire someone that someone else knows.
I was
And then,
amazed by that with my son in high school that they weren't teaching any of that. But I was also impressed that he was on the robotics team and they do a lot of networking and a lot of stuff. But like as I was a previous network marketer. So for me, I was like, let me in there, let me talk to him. I'll have them all like exchanging information and helping each other out. But it's like they don't teach this stuff.
no. And so, and another really cool, interesting fact is like when you're in high school, you don't have an ulterior motive. So you can reach out to people in industries you're interested in and say, can I talk to you for 15 minutes? And who's going to say no to a high school student who's genuinely curious about what you do, especially if they reach out in the right way and show that they've had done a little due diligence. So anyway, she had a course that taught all this. And I remember seeing this and I was like, wow, that's so cool. And then and it was like, boom, download. Maybe it was a spirit guide, or maybe it was like my higher self or whatever. But I was like, oh my God, we could combine networking and manifestation into something. And so I just sent her a DM and I'm like, I have this idea. I don't know if you'd ever be interested, or like, but let's talk. Maybe we could talk about it. And she was like, yeah, let's talk about it. And so we jumped on a Zoom, and it was just like our chemistry was like, we're such a good team. But you can tell, when you meet someone, you're like, we're going to work well together because we're so different too. But we would just vibe, and we were just brainstorming and we're like, this could be really cool. And one thing led to another. So that turned into, I flew up to San Francisco. Actually, I was flying up to San Francisco for our like Twitter going away, like hurrah. Um, and I met with Melanie, who lives in San Francisco, and we started mapping out what this could all look like. And we sat in this room at this WeWork for like 4 hours, and we just mapped out kind of an outline for this course. And anyway, one thing led to another, and we got connected with someone in Hawaii on the at this adult school that was connected with the Department of Education, and it was like a meeting was just handed to us. We had an outline. We had nothing else. We had an outline for this, and they're like, they're looking for this program for like curriculum around this. And it was just right place, right time. We jumped into this Zoom. They loved our backgrounds. They loved that I was at Twitter, she's at Apple. Oh, I didn't mention she's at Apple. And they loved the manifestation piece. They're like, they're like, we should talk about law of attraction in high school. And Hawaii is amazing, and they're very spiritual. But they liked kind of the combination of the two. And so they hired us, and we built this course. So they paid for us to build the course that we had outlined. And
Amazing.
then it just taken off in ways that I would have never imagined. And this is what I talk about a lot with manifesting. It's like I had this vision, but I had no idea where it was going to go. I
Yeah.
certainly think, we're now creating, we just finished our curriculum for special ed. It's going to be the curriculum for special ed across the public schools in Hawaii. Of course, I'm not writing it. We now have a team of curriculum writers and subject matter experts and educators. But then I go to Hawaii once a quarter to lead trainings for teachers on this curriculum. We have one for financial literacy that we're building. We have one for entrepreneurship. We have one uh, uh, I mean, the list goes on, for building professional skills. And all of our curriculums and programs infuse mindset and manifestation, but we're not calling it manifestation, but it's manifestation. It's manifestation.
What do you call it then?
Mindset.
Okay.
Well, only because it's that word, like with some people it's great. With some people it's like, why do I want to bring manifestation into, it's like it
Yeah,
connected with the woo. But that's what it is.
I love it. I'm so excited to see like where it's all taken you and where it's all going. And I know that you don't even know where it's all going. And I love that you're kind of detached from the outcome and just letting things come to you at seemingly all the perfect times.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I mean,
beautiful.
that's the joy. I don't want to know how it's all going to work out. That wouldn't be fun. It's not like an exciting life if you know the path exactly, right?
And are you still doing other coaching, or I think you had, is it
Yeah.
dreams method that you use?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So Career Foundations is part of what I'm doing. And then I help people build coaching businesses. So I've worked with all different types of business owners and entrepreneurs, but I love helping people build coaching businesses because I think that um I just think that coaching is so transformative.
Sure.
And a lot of people say that it's saturated. But I don't think so at all. I think more than ever, people are realizing uh, coaching is one of the best investments you can make in yourself. And it's not just life coaching, but career coaching, business coaching, relationship coaching, parenting coaching, to
Whatever you
have
want to take the next
whatever.
level.
Exactly. And so that is what I do now is I help women primarily build and scale coaching businesses that they love that also, like give them the freedom and flexibility and passion and impact and all those things that I was craving when I was in corporate. So it's kind of like it feels like reaching my hand back and I love it. And so I have a program called Dream Your Biz which is going to launch in a couple of weeks.
Great.
And it is for the woman who wants to start a coaching business and make it their career and transform the lives of other people.
Amazing. And where can people find out more about these awesome offerings and perhaps
Yeah.
follow you?
Yeah. So my Instagram handle is Dream Your Life Now. I also have a podcast which Theresa was on, which was a really popular episode. People loved that episode, by the way.
Oh,
It's called Dream Your Life. And and then in terms of ways to work with me, you can go to my website, dreamyourlifenow.com. Depending on when this airs, I'm running a free workshop. It probably won't be before this, but that's where you can find out. Or just send me a DM, honestly. I'm I feel like a lot of people say that, but I am truly one of those people who loves to connect with
yeah.
people who are interested and want to connect. So send me a DM. I will definitely respond and I would love to know more about you.
Awesome. I'll make sure all of that is in the show notes. Are there any closing thoughts or things you'd like to leave people with today?
Um, I think it's just that I truly believe that the gift of life is to experience and expand and to create something that you love. And
Mm.
it's so possible. It takes a lot of bravery. It takes like being a detective and looking for the breadcrumbs, but you are so deserving. Everyone is deserving of creating a life and a career that they love. And so I think what I want to leave with is like, yes, it's possible. And manifestation is real. And your thoughts do become things. So as Mike Dooley would say, choose them wisely.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here. And to everyone listening, I know you have tons of choices when it comes to the podcast you listen to. So thank you for listening to Becoming More Me. Thanks for spending some of your precious time with me today. If you loved this episode, please leave a review or simply share it with someone else who would get great benefit from it too. If you share on social media, please tag me so I can personally connect and thank you. Until next time, keep taking bold and brave steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. And if your inner critic is still trying to argue with those facts, hit me up. We've got work to do.